on your decision to become a Flutter developer. And it says the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a step. So this is the first step we are going to be taking together, and we are doing a crash course on that. So I will take you through the fundamentals of that and what that is and what we use that for. And I will want you to pay attention as we walk through this together. So what is that? And I say, what is that? That is a modern open source general purpose programming language developed by Google. So that is developed by Google, and it is designed to be fast, productive, and it's optimized for UI developments. Yeah, that is optimized for UI developments, and that is what powers Flutter. So let me just give you some key features in that. It's client optimized, built for building smooth high performance app for web, mobile, not just mobile and web. You also can use it to build desktop applications. It's a compiled language that compiles to native machine code for performance and JavaScript for web. So when that is compiling, it compiles to the native machine code. It's strongly typed with no safety. That's one of the beautiful things I love about that, and one of the things I hate about JavaScript. Although TypeScript solved the issue for JavaScript. So it was strongly typed, and it reduces bugs and improves code quality. Long ago is the time that you'll be hearing semicolon. You are trying to debug an issue because of semicolon. Your code is not working. That is a story that can never happen again. So it's easy to learn. It's so familiar with Java, it's so familiar with JavaScript, it's even familiar with C#. So if you are coming from JavaScript, like you are a web developer before you are coming to become a mobile developer, you are welcome. If you are a Java developer before, you'll find that so easy. The syntax is very similar, and this is what is used primarily by Flutter. That is the language behind Flutter. Anything Google UI Kit, everything you see, that's Flutter is that. Just take it that way. And one thing you need to know is Google is powering this language. Google is spending money on this language for development. Now, why should you need to learn that in 2025? Flutter is growing, and Flutter is really growing. It's not just the rate at which people are using Flutter now. I did a video on Flutter when I talk about Flutter and why you should use Flutter. If you see the video, you see it in the description below. It's something that is growing, and it's important to learn that. Flutter remains one of the most popular cross-platform ever, and if you are building iOS web desktop app, it's wonderful. Another thing is Flutter has its own backend framework. You can use that to write backend. Yes, you can be a full stack developer with that. When you are building front end with that, and you are building backend with that, one of the framework you can use for backend with that is that Frog, Serverpod. Basically, those two. There are some others, but those two are the solid ones. That is expanding beyond front end, and because of package like Chef, we are able to do exceedingly everything that you can do with JavaScript. Just like you have JavaScript for Node, you can also do that for backend. Excellent developer experience, you will enjoy it a lot. The IDE is wonderful, and the ecosystem is growing. There are a lot of packages and open source. That is, open source allows contribution from different people. Google is the one backing it, and a lot of things that will make you love that. So now let's go to the that basics, because that is why we are here. Enough of stories about what is that and this and that. So let's go to the that basics. I'm going to be taking you through the basics of that, and first thing is, what is variable? Yeah, variable is a container that holds value. When you say container that holds value, in that you use variable to store, manage data like number, text, lists while your program runs. So basically, let me just tell you that in a layman knowledge, you have a cup. What do you use the cup to do? To put items inside, right? can pull your tea, you can put your water, all those things. So your variable is just like a cup. It's like a container that holds items for you. So when you declare a variable, everything in programming starts from variable declaration. When you declare a variable, whatever you declare in a strongly typed language like that, you need to declare the type of variable you are working with from the very onset. For example, we have integer, we have double, we have num, we have string, we have bool, we have list, we have map, we have set, dynamic, and record. So I'm going to be walking you through all these things one after the other. And before we go forward, please, you can code when it comes to coding your DATs. Before we start installation of all these things, you can work with your web. Just go to your website, datpad.dev, click on datpad.dev, and then enter. It loads. So now we are in datpad.dev. In datpad.dev, you can easily run your projects, basically any kind of project you want. So we are going to be running, let me just take a dat sample. Okay, so now we are going to be running a datpad. So here I'm going to be showing you something very important. So one thing that is very important is everything in that starts from main. So the first thing, whenever you want to run that, what it looks for is this main function. We'll still get to function, you know what function means. But however, whenever a dat wants to run, the first thing it runs is the main function. It looks for it. Even when it comes to Flutter, the first page it looks for is the main.dat, and inside the main.dat, what it looks for is this void main. So everything starts from main. Completed the discussion on what that is, and you've understood what that is. So let's move straight into that itself. All right. So before we discuss the data types that we have, firstly, let me tell you what we mean by var, final, and constant, because this is what you're going to be seeing a lot. So var is what we use to declare a variable. When you want to declare a variable, or when you want to declare a mutable variable, when I mean a variable that can change, so that is what we call mutable. So we use var. However, if you want to define something that you know that can never change, then it's either you use constant or final. Now, what you can be surprised, okay, when you say something is constant, final, and they are used to declare variable that does not change, why are we now having two different things? So we have a professional use case scenario. Constant is used when it is impossible for anything to change. You use constant when possible. It is the most efficient. However, final is when you want to set something once at compile time, but you want to set it once, but you don't know what it can be when it is compiled during compile time. For example, let me give you an example. Is when you are making a database call and you want to set this thing once, but you don't know what it can be, you don't know the value it can be when it is compiled or when it is coming. So you use final in that scenario. Something that you are not sure what the value that can come, but you know it's constant. So that is final for that scenario. So quickly, when we've discussed constant variable, then let's talk about variable itself. What is variable? Variable is like a container that holds value. It's something that holds value. It can be number, it can be text. It holds a particular value of a particular data type. Now, remember we mentioned before that is a strongly typed language, meaning that you cannot say I am integer, later you now say I am variable. I am integer, later you now say I am string. Or you now say, okay, I'm double. Now I'm no longer double, I am boolean. No, something like that is not possible. Quick one, let me just walk you through scenarios that we have here. I think I did some. Let me just walk you through. So remember, I said we can either be what? int. So let me, if I say before, okay, we can easily just say var name is equals to Afolabi. Automatically it infers the type of data that it is. There's something that we have in that it infers the type of data in that. You don't need to specify, okay, this is, and this same thing that you did there, we can write it in another way by saying string last name. Okay, so you can see now that we have var. Automatically this is already a string, this is also a string. I don't know if you get me. So we can now say last name equals to, my last name is no longer Ayanfe, it's now God's love or God's power. God's love. So now it will allow me, and please note in that anytime you finish a sentence, you need to finish with a semicolon. It will let you know, let's assume that I didn't put semicolon, now it's going to show an error, expected semicolon after the last name. So now, but now you see, now that my last name is this, let's say print last name. Now print is a type of function which we'll discuss later, and before I even continue, I need to let us know something, which is whenever you are working on that, the first thing that is used is that, I think I've mentioned it before, it runs from the main dot that. The main dot that, everything starts from main dot that. So, and that's the first thing that it looks for, as we said before. So you see, God's love. Before it was this, before it was Ayanfe, but it can change. That's why it's called variable. But let's assume I set it as constant now, and I say my constant to constant Bola, constant, sorry, so in moments skip my dailies. Okay, constant second name Joy. So you cannot just say you want to change Joy again. Let's say you now say second name. Now once you've declared the variable, you can easily now start using it anywhere you would like, just like the way I'm accessing it now. Now I want to say Joy, I'm no longer Joy, I'm Peace. Sorry, it will throw an error. It's going to see an error. It's going to throw an error. It's going to throw an error. So now, what's the error throwing? The error is coming from the fact that you cannot say, okay, I am Joy, and you declare it as a constant. You are now changing it to Peace. It's already underlying constant variable can't be reassigned. You can't just reassign a constant variable. So that is that. So I think I've explained the difference between in practical now what's var const mean. Also final also is the same thing. You cannot change final. It's still the same. You cannot change. But let's now change it back to string. It will allow you to change. You see the red line is no longer there. So that is variable automatically. Now let me now give you the remaining data types we have. So we said name is Ayanfe, right? So let's say the second data type that we have is integer. You can call it age equals to 25. So that's an integer. An integer is a number without decimal. So but if you have a number that has decimal, we call it double. So that's double. An account number, you can call down your account balance. Account balance is always in decimal. So maybe you have 20,000 dots 50. So now you see to go through. Now there are scenarios that you are not even sure of. You are not sure if a data is either going to be integer or double. Most especially this one happens when you are dealing with a network call and you are not sure what backend will return. Some backend developers can be very funny. Don't worry, you will deal with them by the time you are professional with Flutter. So you are not sure what they will bring. Maybe it's integer or double, but you want to satisfy both of them. Then the next thing to do is to say num. Num can pick anything, any number. It can be 50. It's not going to give you an error. Another thing is, let me use another one. Any number 2. It can be 30.5. It's not going to give error because it can take anything, any of them. Another data type we have is Boolean. Boolean is verified. It's either going to be false. So for Boolean now, a Boolean is either true or false. So that's one thing about Boolean, it's either true or false. So another data type that I want you to know is we have it a lot in other programming language. So the one of Flutter is what I should now let you know more about. Now in Flutter we have something we call record. It's a record. So let me just give you an example of record. We have a string. Record can hold multiple data types in one variable and an int. So results, let me just name it results. So yeah, I think in Swift we call this tuple that can hold multiple data together. So we can call this Afolabi and its results 75, because I'm very intelligent, so you can easily access any of these tools later. Let me just give you an example of how we access tuple prints. So results now, results dot 1. So now if you run the print, it's going to pick Afolabi for you, and if you pick results 2, it's going to pick age for you. So do you understand now? So basically that's what you are going to get when you run all these commands. So which kind of data types we have that I will quickly want to mention to you? We have map. Okay, but before map, let's do sets. Set is a list of unique data. There can never be two unique data. There can never be two the same data in a set. So now let me give you an example. 3, 5, 6. So this is sets. So you see it's going to print. The network was slow before. So God's love, Afolabi, this result that is printing here, Afolabi, and this one print 2, that's 75. So it says tuple is unique. It's unique. Let's assume I put 5 again now. It's not supposed to work. So it's supposed to be a set of unique data. So data that you are setting out yourself. So basically let's leave that and let's move to map. Map is also like, okay, like set now we are arranging the data, but map is a set of key and value pairs. Let me give you an example of map. My key value pair. So let me just say this. My name. Name is Afolabi. So if I want to access it now, I can just say, if I want to access Afolabi, print this key value ps, open brackets, name. So it's going to print Afolabi for you. It's supposed to print Afolabi as the last thing, Afolabi. So that's basically how to print. That's how to map, how to use map. I think what else? I think that's basically it. If we can look through int, double, num, string, boolean, list. Oh yes, list and dynamic. Quick one. Just like JavaScript that allows anything, we also make provision for that. Let's assume that you are not sure what the data type will be, and you just want it to be able to pick anything. So you say dynamic unsure. So it can be you now. Do you see? And unsure again. Since unsure is a dynamic, it can be 24 later. So it allows you. And unsure again, because this guy is not sure, and whatever that is not sure, we don't work with it in our life. We can put it as false. So you see, it allows it. It's not giving you error because it's dynamic. So if you still want to use any of such, you can continue. It's dynamic. So finally, the next thing that I want to show you is list. Now when we are doing lists, if you want a list to take any type of data, just like the way we've been doing before, list dynamic, then you can call it unsure list. So this kind of lists, in that we don't have array and list separate. In other languages, array is different from list. Please take note of this. In other languages, array is different from list. There are different types, but in that we don't have array. Array is also, list is also array. It works together. So let me just do this, and we can say boy 50 false. It will allow because it's list of dynamic. But let's assume that we are doing list of integer. My int list, so it have to be 2 5 50 before it can work. And don't forget semicolon after. But you cannot say you want to put 67.6. It's going to throw an error. Yes, we cannot add it to list of ints. Once you declare the type of the int, you have to stick to it. But if you put it as dynamic, then it can take anything. But once you declare what that integer is supposed to be, what that list is supposed to stand for, automatically you will not be able to add any other thing there. You just have to stick to it. You have to stick to whatever you've identified as that value there automatically. So the quick one, I think we've gone through everything. We've gone through the integer, double, nums, string, boolean, list, map, set, dynamic, and records. This document will be made available to you in the description. So control flow, and after control flow, we are going to stop the lesson for this section here, and then we'll continue in the part 2 of this. So now control flow, we are going to be considering the logic, conditional logic, the loop, and the non-safety. Now a quick one. Now we want to say if unsure is less than 50, print you are not sure. Abi? Yeah, you print you are not sure. If unsure, let's see. So if unsure is less than 50, print you are not sure. But you will notice something is throwing up an error. Can you tell me the error and why we are getting this error? If you want to, if you can look carefully. I'm giving us some time to think. Think. I will tell you the reason for the error now. Alright, now the reason is what? I cannot be comparing two different types of data. It's not right. Now, this unsure is no longer integer. It's now Boolean. Now, remember that unsure was dynamic. We set it to be string. Even though it's dynamic, as you are setting it, it's picking the value it's supposed to be. But because it's a variable and it's dynamic, it can change. So now as at this point is a string. As at this point, it has turned to integer. As at this point, it has turned to Boolean. So automatically, it's no longer, and I cannot be comparing Boolean and string and integer together. So it will fail. It's going to cause an issue. So automatically, that's why it's throwing this error. But if I say if unsure is not false, it's going to work. Now print, but because unsure is false, it's going to, it falls into, it cannot print it. So that's why we have else block. So else, so that's why we have else block. So let's say you are not sure, but this one you are sure. Let's put it there, you are sure. So now it's going to print you are not sure automatically. But let's assume that this is true. It's going to print you are sure. So that's conditional. We use conditional statement to be okay. If it is this, do this. However, if it is not this, do this. So now that's where we have, but the however is okay. Let me now give you an example. For example, let's use my age. If age is less than 12, print you are a toddler, or let me just say you are a small boy. Else, if, now that's what we have, if age is less than 30, so you print you are a youth. Then else, let's just say you print the printing must be string. And I don't know if I mentioned to you, whenever we are declaring string in Flutter, it has to start with capital letters. We mentioned here capital letter, and it can either be double or single quotes. In other languages, a single quote might be character, but in Flutter we don't. A single quote might be character and double quotes is string. And there's difference between character and string. Character is just a single item of an object, but in Flutter, in that, basically you can interchange it and it does not matter what you pick. So now you are adults, you are an adult. so you're an adult. So now basically let's just print this. Let's see. So you are a youth. Now this scenario means that if it is this, do this. However, if it is not this but it is this, do this. Then however, if it is not any of all the things we've mentioned, do this. So the else block is always the final thing that falls into. If the condition 1, condition 2, condition 3, even if you have 100 conditions, is not true, then it falls to the else block, which is the final thing it can work with. So you see the same scenario playing out also in our switch statement. Let me just copy this switch. Let me copy that switch here. So we have our switch statement here. So let's see. So you see switch grade var, grade is A. Now switch, if grade is A switch case is, the way switch works is with switch statements. It's very good when you're writing blocks of code and you want the action to be based on a particular scenario. So now grade is equals to A. Now let's switch grade. If the case is A, print excellent, break. Now the break is very important because it stops, as if you didn't put break then it won't stop. So now print excellent, then break. That's the end. But if it is not, if the case is not A, move to case B, print good, break. However, if at the end of the day all of the cases that we've mentioned is not, then we have a default fallback, which is default, and you print needs improvements. Basically, let's see, it's going to print excellent because the grade is A. I don't know if you get. So now we've mentioned the if and if else or else. Then we have the switch case. The next one we'll be working on with is the for loop. So quick one. I can say so we have age already, right? I can just say for var index equals to 0, y index is less than 50, y index is less than 50, is less than 5, index plus. There's what this means, I will explain. Then print my index is index. So I'm going to explain what I did simply here later by the time we are working. So but however, in string you can encapsulate, or how will I mention it now, or other variable into it. For example, now I want to add integer inside a string and I want it to show. All you just need to do is to put this sign. So once you put this up sign here, and it's going to pick the index automatically, it's going to print it. It's adding it to the string. And even if it is boolean or anything, no matter the data type, you can always add it by putting this alongside in a string. So let's see, it's going to print is 5 times. My index is 0, my index is 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's going to stop. So why is the first thing here in this for loop is that you declare the variable. This is this now, and then the next thing is the condition, and then the action to perform after the condition. So it says var index is 0, that is index is starting from 0. Do you get that? And y index automatically means y index is less than 5, you print. But plus means that after you've printed it, add 1 to it. Plus means add increment. Do you get? I can easily just do so that you can know that plus means increment. h plus plus. And then print h. So now, if you remember age before, what do we set age as? It's a variable, so it can change. It's 25. So now that I do plus plus, it's going to print 26 for age automatically. So while that is going on, so that's for loop. So now we have while loop, and then we have do while loop and for in loop. So it's going to be great, don't worry, you are going to understand. So let me just quick one, because of our time, let me copy all this so that I can just paste it, and we've done while loop. Let's do while loop. I will explain them, and then finally is this one. I'll do while loop. So let me so now that I've listed all the conditional flows that are left, let's start with this while loop. Now you need to understand that while loop is very dangerous to use, because you have to be very careful whenever you are using a while loop. And the reason being that if the condition is not properly set, it's possible that it will enter into an infinite loop. And the issue with an infinite loop is it will continue to run without stopping, and it's going to freeze your phone or the device. It's going to use all the memory until it crashes it, basically. So now when you see here, the first thing you see is that we declare the variable as 0. Now the condition is the thing. Now the condition checks first before the action is performed. So that's that's while loop. But there's another one we call do while loop. Do while loop checks do the action first before the condition is checked. But here we check the condition first before the action. Says why this value is less than 5, do this action. Now immediately it does the action, we increment the condition by 1. Remember, we've discussed increments before. So now when we increment the condition by 1, what happens automatically is that it changes to 2, and it continues like that until it reaches the final one. And once the condition is false, the loop stops automatically. So now, however, when it comes to the other one, do while loop, this one does something first. It first performs the action before checking the condition. So while the condition is still true, it continues to do the action. If the condition does not stop being true, it's going to keep on doing the action. So whenever you are going to be using while loop or do while loop, you need to be able to handle your condition in a way that is going to stop at a particular point in time. If it is true forever, it's going to cause an infinite loop, and whenever your code enters into an infinite loop, it can be very dangerous. It can cause a lot of memory leak and memory usage. For example, let's assume you're still in a backend and your code runs into an infinite loop. In the backend resources, you are going to run into debts. So however, even if it is front end, the phone is going to freeze and get to the point that it will be out of memory. So it's very important to avoid, because these actions are performed in milliseconds, and in 1 second lots of actions are performed, and in a minute millions of actions have already been run. So it's very dangerous, basically. So now that we've done that, in the next one after do while loop is for it's not for loop, it's just like a for each loop. So basically this one, it will loop through. You say it loops through your variable and performs the action based on the, you have an access to the elements inside. You use this one a lot of times when you want to have access to the identity itself. Let's assume it's a class, a list of class that is being handled, a list of models, and you want to have access to the particular model itself. That is when you use the other, this one. So let me just run the code so that you see what it comes out automatically from there. So you see, you remember when I said that the age was 20 or 25, I mean 24. Let's move up 25. So now it's increased to 26 because of the double plus there. Then we print the age. Why this is this? You see 0 to 4. The same thing also happens for this one. 0 to 4. Do the action. Why? At least you've seen the difference between the do while loop and then the while loop. And finally 4. So basically that's all about the control flow. And one thing I would like to, a bonus package to this is the not safety. I need to mention not safety to you. The not safety is one of the strong points in that. Basically it helps you to, it's a type safety. When I mean safety in the sense of you can say a value can be unknown initially and you set it later. So for example, let's say optional now, you can say let boy age. So now once something is declared as late, it means that what you are not sure of what, it's not initialized yet, and you can now say boy age. Okay, so boy age is equals to, you can now initialize it later and give its value. So now whenever you want to do something, you can say boy age can be optional, or for example, even if you don't want to do this late, you can use optional, making it optional. With this, you don't have to pass any value, it's optional. So now whenever you want to use this, and you need to be very careful or else it will break your code, is to, let's say if girl age, if girl age is not null, then you can perform your action. And or if you want to asset it straight, you can use this girl age print girl age and give it a default value, like a fallback value. So now automatically what happened here is that you see we have not, I've explained here, but if you are sure that this thing will always have value, then you can put like boy age. Now let me just give you an example. Boy age, print boy age, and you put ampersand. Now with this, anytime you put this and the value now ended up to be no, that is, it's not there, it's going to break your code. So if you want to use this, always try to avoid this in your runtime code. Like always, at every time, avoid it. Let there be an optional value that it can fall back on. That's why you see some apps will break or crash. It can crash your app, it can break it if you force an optional value out. So this one is when you can only use it anytime you know you are very sure that thing will always have value at that point in time. But if you are not sure, you can always provide an optional fallback value for the not safety. Basically, that's summarize it all. I want you to ensure that you follow through, subscribe, and then like, and finally ensure you do the exercise that will be given after. So we'll be going into the second phase of this in the next video. Thank you very much.